All right. It's time for another episode of Paw and Order Las Vegas, the animal welfare podcast, where we hope to educate and empower you to take action. We ask that every week of people to take action. So what have you done recently to help animals? Are you fostering? Did you contact an elected official? Are you encouraging someone to adopt? You know, we're here to remind you that you all can be a hero to an animal in need out there. I'm Bryce Henderson, president of No Kill Las Vegas. And of course, we have Gina Greisen, Nevada Voters for Animals, and Melanie Shane with Kiss My Paws Rescue. Ladies, what is hot in animal news this week? I saw a lot on the news.
Yes. So I guess on July 11th, we all probably saw it if you're on Facebook. A dog was taken. So a car drove up to the NSPCA, took a dog out and was tied to the fence, and then they ended up driving off.
I remember that.
Yeah. So there is an updated story. Security footage captured the license plate and the vehicle. So in the Facebook post, you couldn't see the license, which is good. I'm actually glad they didn't post that because, and then we have these detectives that go out there and, put the names out, and people are trying to find addresses and doing who knows what. But they did find the person. The staffers helped the dog. And from what I understand, the dog was so scared that they had to actually call in animal control to use a catch pole to get the dog away from the fence. It was 108 degrees that day. So I believe... Are they pressing
charges?
Yeah. They are pressing charges. I don't know what article I saw that in, but there were multiple charges.
Deprivation of sustenance. That they did not say her name, but I've already done a records request on it. So hopefully they'll not deny me, because I also did a records request on update on Canela and Ribbit and the other dog, because they denied me that records request as well. So if I get those records, we will share that information.
And abandonment now is increased penalties.
I don't know
if I should introduce our guest now, since that's kind of pertinent.
Hold on. There was a one little thing, because yes, I definitely want it. We have a very special guest today, but there was a little post about rabies today. Are you done, or do you want to?
No, I'm not.
There's a lot more news.
I did. I know.
She's up for adoption.
I did. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is this dog is now available for a rescue pull or for adoption?
So at the Animal Foundation, he went to Animal Foundation. He's not at Nevada SPCA.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And then there was 100 kittens. Gina, you always know about the hoarders. I don't know how, but they...
So apparently, like the neighbors, this has been going on for like 6 years, but this house recently got sold in June, and there are over 50 to 100 cats were left behind in this home, and they have attempted to contact the previous homeowner, the one who just sold the house, with no luck. From what I understand, animal control has been going there. They've been leaving water. Some of the neighbors open the windows so the cats could get air. They've been leaving food and water for these cats. I don't know what the solution is going to be, how the shelter is going to take in 100 cats.
I'm all over it, girl. Would you
like? All right, what do you got, Gina?
But that's where we're at.
All right. So I spoke to Councilman Churchio today. I asked for North Las Vegas. I asked for an investigation into what happened, because based on the news report, which isn't always completely accurate, which is why I like to get just the facts. I hear it's not 100 cats; it's less. I'm not sure. I have a call in to C5. I did speak to this supervisor, Kelly Lodge, who's the supervisor of North Las Vegas Animal Control. She did say it's not exactly 100, but of course some of them are feral and they go in and out. So they're not sure. They won't know until they do the trapping. C5 is helping with the trapping, the situation. They have a plan.
But it's not 3 cats. It's a lot of cats.
Yeah. Even if it was 3
whether
cats,
it's
I'd
not
still
100,
be pissed.
I mean, it's still
like 80.
It's still a huge amount of cats.
Hey,
if you leave abandon one animal in a house and leave it, that's...
Oh no, it's definitely a hoarding situation, and I'm deeply concerned how this got out of hand. And I did have that conversation with not only Councilman Churchio.
Animal control went 20 times to this property. So that's crazy that nothing got done.
I'm saying that they've been, and not every time they were there on a complaint. I talked, that's why I said...
Were they bringing cookies?
Okay. I asked...
Right? What was happening
Well, people can speculate all day long, which is why I call and ask for investigations. So Councilman Churchio has assured me they're going to investigate what happened, who played what role, why things did or didn't happen. We're going to find out exactly how many cats. C5 is helping with that. And if you care enough and you want to help, foster, because the kittens and the moms that you saw are at the Animal Foundation. They probably need fosters or rescue pool. Not all the cats are going to be friendly. They need to be assessed. C5 is doing the TNR. And I would say, if you want to help, donate to C5.
So did they tell you how many times animal control has been out there then?
Yes.
Is it like 20 times?
Yeah, which is why, okay. So, yes, that's why
I understand people's frustrations, because I hear from people all the time who are like, I've called animal control 3-4 times. They're not coming over. The dog in my neighbor's backyard is in dire need of assistance. And here we've got 20 phone calls, 20 visits.
Okay.
Yeah, so we want to follow up and find out what's going on. I know you know more than anybody.
I've asked for let me repeat that again. I've asked for an investigation into what happened, and we will get that. Councilman Churchio has assured me they're going to investigate what we heard. Why did this happen? And I've already told Kelly, I hope you guys accept responsibility that you played a role in this, and you probably could have. But again, my main concern right now is the moms, the kittens, and getting those cats out of there and them safe.
Sure.
We will sort out all the details later and figure out what happened. And by the way, do we have an A number? Because I shared it on the dog that's available.
My phone is taping.
Hold on, sorry.
I just want to.
We can update on our post his name and his animal ID number. I'm sorry, I forgot it. Is it like Kingston or something like that?
It's with a K, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do that for the dog that was tied and abandoned at Nevada SPCA. And the rabies thing. Someone posted on their page, they didn't make it shareable, that she was scratched or something she was TNRing a cat, or there was a cat under her car or something. And so she posted that she was told by UMC or Quick Care or whatever that there was a rabies outbreak in Henderson, and that they were sending everyone to UMC for a rabies protocol or something. You sent it to me. I immediately sent it to Henderson Animal Protection Services. That's their new name, by the way. When they got moved, they did switch to that. And I was assured that there is not a rabies outbreak in Henderson. So,
did you guys hear that? There's no rabies outbreak in Henderson.
Please be careful. And I know, and I've already talked to the lady. She said, I wasn't trying to fearmonger or scare people. But what happened is people screenshotted it and then started sharing it. So please, before you share something and you're not sure, please contact authorities or contact us or ask for,
it's like the toilet paper situation.
From COVID?
COVID and multiple other times over the last few years. Oh my God, there's going to be a toilet paper shortage, and everyone runs down and clears out Costco and Sam's Club,
Was there anything else in the news?
I wanted to bring up deportations. So I actually did a news story, was it 2 weeks ago, in regards to how deportations are affecting the animals. I did try to pull up some kind of numbers. There isn't any at this point. They don't have any actual statistical numbers in regards to how many animals have been affected from the deportations. But I did want everyone to just keep an eye on your neighbors, not spy, but, just keep an eye on what's going on in your neighborhood. If someone gets taken off the street and they have an animal, we don't know what's happening with that animal. So the animal could be left in someone's apartment. It could be left in the house. And I think we've talked about this before. But this is a serious thing that's happening. And it's not only dogs and cats, it's farm animals.
Children.
Children even. So just, keep an eye on what's going on around you. If you see something, say something. If you have to contact somebody for help, contact somebody for help. And then if you are somebody who could potentially be deported, please have these things figured out in advance. So talk to family members, friends, even your neighbor. Hey, if you don't see me put out my garbage cans one Tuesday night, can you come knock on my door and make sure everything is okay? Have some kind of plan put into place if that happens to you. Because we've already taken in a dog that they had to self-deport. So, luckily they just got ahead of it and we're like, we're out and we can't take our dog with us. So we were able to take the dog into the rescue. But, it's just kind of thinking along the same lines as if something happens to you. Like I have a will and what's going to happen to my dogs. I've already spoken to people. So there's no issue when it comes to if something happens to me and where the animals are going to go. So it's the same thing.
All right. Well, we have a really cool guest with us here today. Thanks to Gina. Hold some strings. The woman who sponsored Reba's Law, State Assemblywoman Melissa Hardy. Melissa's been a member of the State Assembly since 2018, representing the Henderson area, basically south of the 215, kind of wrapping around to the Cadence area. She is currently the Assistant Minority Floor Leader for the Republican Caucus. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks.
And we want to learn kind of how the sausage was made with Reba's Law.
And a fourth-generation Nevadan, been here a long time.
Yes.
And has how many kids again? And grandkids?
I have
that's
two grown daughters and I have two little grandsons.
Oh.
Yeah.
so lucky.
All in
So that's
Vegas?
the best.
Yep. Everyone lives here. Yep. They're fifth. The grandkids would be sixth generation. So
That's how my granddaughter is too.
yeah, it's pretty good.
So we'd love to learn more about you, but tell us a little bit about Reba's Law. How were you inspired who approached you about sponsoring it kind of from the origins?
I'm sorry. Can we talk about what Reba's Law is? Because if we have people that are listening,
Sure.
and from
I know
other
we all
like
think
states,
everyone knows Reba's Law.
exactly, and they don't know what's going on. So if you can explain what Reba's Law is first and how that came about.
Okay, sure. So Reba's Law is, like you said, it's AB 381 was the number in the session. It was the bill that I sponsored, and it was named Reba's Law in honor of the little bulldog that died just about a year ago now, after being taped in a bin and left out next to a dumpster in the hot sun. That story went just viral on the news last summer, and there was a gentleman that started the Justice for Reba movement. He wrote letters to legislators and emailed, and I was one. I'm a big animal lover. We've always owned animals. I've carried animal legislation every session since I've been in the legislature. And so I responded and said, I would love to do this. So I got with, the parties that would be involved in that, the DA, the counties, to look at what the laws currently were, and then what they thought we could do, what they thought, where we could go, we could get accomplished.
So you consulted with DA Wolfson?
With his office, because, they have, the DAs, they have a unit that works just on animal cruelty, and then they also have DAs that work in the legislative session. That's part of their job in the DA's office is they go to session and they work on bills. And so, I knew them from previous
And their
sessions.
office was supportive, or
Yes.
what kind of feedback?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because if when Reba, that incident happened, the DA, went on TV and said outright, yes, we would like stricter laws, but we don't have them. So I was like, okay, there's the call to action. And so, like I said, I contacted the gentleman that started the Justice for Reba movement and the website, and got with him, and then got with the DA. And then, I'm not an attorney, so I wanted to, do this thoughtfully and go through all of the statutes. So it was working with the DA and with the legal division that we have access to as legislators at LCB that go through the statutes so that when you write the law, like anything that touches the statute you're trying to change, they have to make sure that it all works together. So when you write the bill, it's cohesive, because that's just something like me. I would never try as a legislator to write my own legislation because it just references too many chapters and et cetera. So that's the story of Reba and where Reba's Law came from. So it was basically, a year, July, and then we worked on it, and, we have deadlines to file bills. So I think it was December I had to have it filed. Basically, the idea doesn't have to be completely vetted out, but at least the idea of what you're trying to do before the session started. And then the session started in February, and then we have a 120-day session of which to get our bills through. So that just ended on June 2nd or 3rd.
Mhm.
And that bill took the entire 120 days.
Every day of it.
Yep. Hardest bill I've ever done.
I want to get more into that, but you brought up the DA's office. You know, our complaint with the DA has always been he's been able to prosecute for higher penalties, but he's failed to do so. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I understand that. And I don't know all of the details of what they've done in the past and why and all of that.
I do.
I was just focused on this. This was such a monumental case. Not that all of the ones before were not tragic and, deserved just as much attention. But this was just, I think in the age that we're in right now, there's so much media attention and social media attention on these issues that this case with Reba was just egregious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone is I just think the momentum of animal advocacy and people that care about those issues is just so heightened that everyone was just like, wow, this has gone too far. This is enough. And what can we do? And so
when you submitted it, then what were your expectations of it passing? Based off what you were hearing from leadership and the floor?
The original bill, as I submitted it, went pretty far. The original penalty would have gone up to 10 years. There were some other sections of it that would have also gone after like people that saw something and didn't report it. I mean, it was a lot. I will tell you that the first version of the bill, we went all out. There was everything in that as far as we could go.
But LCB
what we
does
were doing.
that, right? I mean, sometimes it may not even be. It sometimes might even be more than what you expected, but LCB is trying to cover all the bases,
right,
and throw in the kitchen
legislative,
sink. Because that's Legislative Council Bureau. They're the lawyers that write the legislation.
Correct.
Because even with the bill that I did with this, we called it the Sequest bill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the number off the top of my head right now. That requires posting if people have animal welfare concerns at commercial establishments. The first version of it was like, that's way more, but they can only go based on what you're saying. Right. Hey, this is what I want. So it's like saying, hey, draw me a picture. And then they just, put everything in there. And then you narrow down as the session goes on and more people get involved.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, yes, they write it. Sometimes they put in, you're like, no, that's not really the direction I was going. Yeah. But we wanted, meaning, me and the DA wanted as much in there. We wanted to get as much as we could. We wanted to go as far as we could with it, knowing also that that's the nature of the process of the legislature that you better, any negotiation, I think, right? You better ask for the moon because it's going to get whittled down. That's just how it works.
So what were some of the things that were in there initially?
That you got pushed back on,
So like I mentioned, the parts about if you see something happening to an animal and you don't report it, that we really tried. I mean, I was like, when I went in there, and I've been there 4 sessions and many special sessions, I know how it goes. I knew there was going to be pushback from the public defenders, from legislators that are public defenders, that don't like penalties, that don't like increasing penalties, that don't think anyone should be in jail, that's where they come from.
Criminal justice reform has been a big thing too.
So I knew it was going to be tough. And so I originally said, I'm not going to give on any of this at first. But those sections about seeing something happening and reporting it, people had a lot of angst with that. And I hung in there and said, well, can we fix it? Can we kind of make it, just tighten it up a little bit? Because I really don't want to get rid of that. And the DA didn't either. They wanted that in there because they want to be able to go after people, in those situations.
Where are these discussions happening? People calling you running into them in the hallways?
Most of this happens in Carson City, like in my office. You have meetings with the parties that are involved. Once the bill comes out, it's available, it's written. People read it and then they come. As soon as you get there, they have meetings with you and you talk about what they don't like, where you're willing to work with them.
So you're meeting with members from the opposite party.
Yeah, you're meeting with
leadership.
Special interest groups like
special interest groups,
ACLU,
the county,
public defenders,
the public defender,
all the associations,
right?
And the police, probably the people,
anyone
the police
that
protective,
had, that would kind of affect this bill. Mostly, though, I would say it was like the DAs and the public defenders, and then the counties, because there were some sections in that dealt with the cost of care for animals, and when somebody is an animal taken, that process of getting them back or not, that's all in Reba's law too. So all of that eventually about seeing something and reporting it, that all had to come out. That was just like a no-go. Mm-hmm. And some of the legislators didn't like that either. They're like, oh, so if I see something over there and I don't report it, I'm going to have a felony, So that eventually had to come out. Really, I will say, so basically we have a 120-day session, but you really have about 70 days to get it out of the first house. If it doesn't get out of the committee that it's in and the first house, it's dead. So it's really like 70 days that you have to work on this, among all the other 1,100 bills that you're also hearing. Yeah. So by the first committee deadline, we had it pretty much down to that those sections were going to come out, and it was down to 1 to 8. That's pretty much all that was changed. The night before the committee hearing, it fell apart, and the PDs were like, no, we don't agree to that. I'm like, yeah, you did a week ago. Oh, we don't like that now. And then the members,
the public defenders,
they didn't like that
from
part.
Clark County,
and there's a coalition of them. So like Washoe and Clark, and they all kind of work together. And then there were members on the Judiciary Committee, the Assembly Judiciary Committee, that pushed back and didn't like that either. So then they wanted it to go 1 to 6. And I was like,
years we're talking.
It was 1 to 8. Then they're like, no, we want it 1 to 6. I'm like, you just said it a week ago, 1 to 8 was fine. Well, you won't have the votes. And it's just a very long story. And I was like, I know
that's
I
why
have
they
the
call
votes.
it making sausage, because it really is.
And people don't really know, because like to your question a little bit ago, where does all this talking and meeting go on? You can watch a hearing, but that's like 10% of what happens to a bill. Most everything is done like
before the hearing
with the legislator and all of this out of the hearing. Then it comes back. It's got to come back and get out of the committee. So basically, by the first committee deadline, I knew that I had the votes because I had whipped them myself. And then it came up that Friday night, and you do work sessions on them, and it wasn't on the agenda, and it wasn't on the agenda. And I'm like, where is this bill? And I was basically told that bill's not moving.
Who told you that?
I don't even remember, honestly. Someone texted me and said that bill's not going to move. Mm-hmm. So
the committee chair, Brittany Miller,
she didn't tell me that. I didn't know this. They hadn't told me. I didn't know. Like we had till midnight, and I kept saying, where's the bill? Where's the bill? And then by like 5 or 6 o'clock, we did the last agenda. It wasn't on there, and the committee adjourned. It was over. And I left there. I was just like devastated. And I came home that weekend because for all intents and purposes, the bill died. It was it. It didn't pass the first committee deadline. It's done.
Like why? I don't understand why they wouldn't be for a bill like this. Like, I just don't.
Do the public defenders have that much pull?
No, it's more. I mean, you're like I said, you're working with legislators that see it differently. That
and you're in the minority,
and I'm in the minority, so I'm at the mercy of whatever.
But you still had the votes. You whipped them yourself.
I did. I knew I had him, but for whatever reason,
it's like the goalpost keeps moving. I mean, it's an ever-changing.
And you don't know. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know until like after, and I was like, I mean, I did everything I possibly could, but whether it was Democratic leadership or the members on the committee didn't really want it, or they didn't want me to have a win with Reba's law because they knew how big this would be. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I really don't.
It's probably all of the above.
Yeah.
I know, with Cooney's law, and I think
I like to find someone to blame.
I actually,
and I just don't understand. This is to protect animals, and
it's not
and
okay, but it's not.
Bars,
It's not that simple.
Well, I understand.
I mean,
it's
that's
not
why
that
it's
simple.
literally.
I'm with you. I'm like, this is
you're like.
This is about, protecting animals and those that are voiceless and can't defend themselves.
But Brittany Miller could have brought it to a hearing if she wanted to.
Technically, yeah, because she's the chair of the committee. But there again, I don't know the inner workings of what her leadership told her. And, I don't know. I don't ultimately know who made that decision. But it died. And so I went home and was like, well, that's it. It was just an awful day. We were all just devastated, the DAs, everybody. And I gave a thought of, I'm just going to go wild on social media over this. I don't care. This is terrible. I'm just going to go after him. I came home and just kind of unplugged from the whole legislature and talked to my, family and the people that I trust. And I didn't do that. And unbeknownst to me, over the weekend, the animal advocacy groups lit it up. That's all I can say. If it weren't for them, this bill, I don't think it would have been brought back. They went after whoever they went after, and come Monday morning, it was okay. Now we're having a work session on this bill. We didn't know what it was for. I don't even know what it was. It was my bill, but I didn't know until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They said, yeah, it's 381. It's Reba's law. I'm like, what? So they brought it back as only the majority party can do, and brought it back. And then so it lived. They exempted it from all deadlines. And so.
Had you ever seen that happen before?
No. I mean, technically, I guess, like, they say no bill is ever truly dead.
Did they do that with the pet store bill too? I thought that was okay, because I remember they
humanely euthanized that one, I guess we should say.
Oh, bad. But to your question, animal legislation is really difficult. Why, I don't know. I really don't know. But it's the Nevada law treats pets as property. That's one thing. You just have different views on all of this. I mean, that there were comments that, well, these penalties are higher than for children, and we're like, well, increase them then. Like, it's
or
not
why do you want to wait till someone beats a child? Why don't you hold them accountable at the point they're beating their dog? That was because I started to say, and then. Is that I authored Cooney's Law back in 2011, and those were the arguments that we got. So it's more of a penalty to beat my dog than it is to beat my wife. And I will tell you, it was actually the Republicans that were against it and the Democrats that were for it. And I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that ended up. He asked me, he said, "How's your bill going?" And when I said, "Well, it'd be great if the Republicans weren't trying to kill it," and he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Let me go," and he went and talked to them, and I don't know what happened, but it was like the Three Musketeers that came and showed up, and we also had, people trying to hold it up, and that's what people don't understand about the legislature. Yeah. When a chair of a committee wants a bill, but a chair of a different committee is holding up a bill, then they say, well, I'm not going to give your bill a hearing until you get my bill a hearing, and there's trade-offs, and that's why they call it meat and sausage, because it's gross. What happens? We kept being told, you need to do this. Metro actually limited who it was animals are defined as anything not human. And they're the ones that said only animals kept for companionship or pleasure. So you were lucky that you had, I would say I'd paved that road a little for you.
Yeah.
I didn't have that support. I had everyone trying to kill it. And we definitely didn't have the DA showing up and supporting it. No one wanted it. The ranchers in it, you know what I mean? It was like... Yeah,
you have northern folks that view animals very differently.
Yeah,
very differently.
You say it's controversial, but it passed the assembly unanimously. So what was really controversial?
Well, so I think on the assembly side, I mean, there, like, to your point, I say, like, a lot of them are against and all that. There are a lot of them that really supported it. There were some I found out later that supported it in the original version that was introduced. So, and I think that by the time it got to the point to get out of the assembly, people were in support of that. Now, the version that came out of the assembly, in between it dying, being resurrected, and passing the assembly was a whole weeks of trying to fix the bill, because the people on the committee in the Assembly Judiciary took that bill and amended it to where it was like basically just a mess what they put in it. It would have undone some of the things that had been done before in animal legislation, like Assemblyman O'Neill's bill that he had in 2023 that addressed the that
Jason Brown,
that would have undone some. It was like, and at that point the DAs were like, we can't support this. I'm like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there was weeks and weeks of trying to get that bill fixed, to get it out of the Assembly to the Senate, because we were running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the version that came out of the Assembly needed work, but we just had to get it out of there over to the Senate. And then once we got it over to the Senate, it had to have a hearing over there. I mean, and we're talking, the hearing in the Senate didn't even happen until like the last week of May, I think. And we're like, we have a week.
And you guys have all these other bills, and you guys, and there's no like open meeting law, like you guys aren't subject to
we're not.
So you're finding out at the last minute. These hearings are going late in the night. You guys are there in the morning. You're getting calls. You're getting special interest groups meeting with you. Like it's crazy how hard you guys work in that short little amount of time. And we should have a legislature that meets every year. I mean, Nevada's grown up now. We need to be grown-ups and have like a legislature.
Or longer. I mean, it's just
that's crazy.
The amount of bills, like you said, that we do and that we have to. And you find
out at the last minute and you're running, because if you have a bill that you're trying to speak on, but there's a hearing and you're on a committee over here, like I can't even imagine that you wear out probably a whole 2 pairs of shoes running back and forth from here to there in every hearing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy and it's intense. And I do wish like the public understood more like that you do of what really goes on. And, sometimes they think that, oh, you just give in, and why is this so hard? And why didn't you get more? And they don't understand.
It's not that.
It's hard.
And just because you write a bill doesn't mean it's going to be constitutional either. It has to pass muster. I mean, you can write whatever you want, but people can challenge it, and you want it to be fair.
Yeah.
Because I am a fair person.
Yeah.
I want people's rights protected.
For sure.
Especially if it's like a domestic violence situation, you're going to charge someone who's being beaten with a felony because they didn't turn in their husband who beats them, or the adult children that watch. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, and there's all those situations
it's not
like that.
Simple.
No,
it's not black or white. It's very gray. And for me, I was upset because when he said, "Oh, I just don't have a lot," I'm like, really? That's weird, because Jason Brown is sitting in prison for up to 28 years, and that's weird because Cooney's Law worked just fine for that case, and he got charged. The DA, Dana Gentry did a very in-depth story. She pulled 2 years of cases, and some of them were very heinous cases, and they all got a slap on the wrist, and they got basically, a plea deal. And if they successfully complete probation, including, you may have heard about the hoarding couple that had, killed over, 60 or 80 animals, had over 200 at their house. They only got like 1.5 years probation. And that was the lady that worked with you on the bill. That's why I was upset, because for me, I'm very concerned about the initial investigation, because talking specifically about Reba, and we're going to have the cruelty detectives on next week.
Oh, good.
So we really want to get to the bottom, because we met with the sheriff, and when I kept asking about the container she was found in, because everyone was saying, where's the container?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that they said, well, that evidence was destroyed. But it was there. It was on the news. We know that the person that transported the dog has video. He was there, and he was told to leave by the police because they didn't know what they were doing. And that's why we had a very brutal case of a dog that was allegedly sodomized, and I mean, very abused. Like, it was a horrific abuse case. We're at the Tropicana Animal Hospital waiting for the detectives, and now they send patrol because they don't have enough. So I'm always fighting for the front end, for the actual investigation side, making sure it's done right. We're gathering the evidence, the dog, and the bucket was never.
That's important, because because you
can have you can have a death penalty, but
when the attorneys go to court, they've got to have evidence,
exactly,
and things like that. They can't just frivolously charge. I mean, and they know that, like they have to be, and that was part of Reba's law. Some of the in the second revision of the bill, there were some things that were put in there that were specifically like affirmative defense, which is basically, oh, well, this is my excuse basically for what I did, right? So the DA was like, well, we can't have this in there because we'll never be able to charge because there'll always be a reason, right? So there's just things like that. And I just see it as, yes, it all works together. You have to have the investigation. You have to have the evidence. You can't, they can't just go in and charge.
A cause of death, a
right,
necropsy,
because
all
you
of
want
it.
it to stick. That's the point. It's got to stick. And if they can't, they don't have things to prove the case. You know, that's only so much.
That's why I actually fought for the felony animal cruelty unit at Metro. I fought for the DA unit at the district attorney's office because when Cooney's Law first came out and went into effect, people were calling, you know, oh, there was a case of a kitten giving birth being stoned. And they kept hold for animal control, right? Before they changed their name to APS. And I'm like, that's a felony in progress. So I actually had to work with the dispatchers to say, stop transferring those calls. Let them finish, because the minute you hear animal, you can't just transfer it. You have to, if someone's saying, hey, someone's stabbing their dog, that's a felony in progress. That's you guys. You need to respond. So we worked very hard to make sure that we, you know, rolled out so that would happen. And then to make sure that there were detectives that specialized in investigating those cases. And I'm so excited that they're going to be on next week and we can talk about that. In fact, one of the original detectives, Detective Siegel, is going to be on the show with one of the newer detectives. But, you know, those are, it's such a process. But we have a hard time, just like when you were saying, people call animal control and they say they never show up. It's the same, you know, we have fought when we know that they're down to one detective or two. But Reba's case, I mean, really impacted them because I worked on that a lot. And my name was on the flyers. My email was on the flyers. We did the flyers. In fact, I would argue we were responsible for the surveillance video being discovered.
Awesome.
I worked very hard on that. And we want justice, but we also want to make sure that the case is solid from start to finish.
Right. Absolutely.
And that the DA is enforcing the law.
Well, I think now it's being taken more seriously, even than, so I don't know if you remember up on the east side, there was a dog that was found in a crate. They left the crate, took the dog, left the crate there. I went, put gloves on, took the crate back to my house just in case, but they weren't even doing any investigations. So even like 2 years ago, because that was what, did you remember that? It was like 2 years ago.
But see, that was animal control.
So,
and that's why for me, it's about fighting for the proper training, tools, everything that they need to properly investigate from the get-go. But if you notice, the dog that got dumped, Metro put the press release out, the one that just got dumped over there, and they were there, and you saw them taking the cage. They took everything.
Yeah, they were, and they interviewed that. And, you know, I think to what you just said, sadly and unfortunately, I think the case of Reba, look at just since then, the cases that we've seen, I think, unfortunately, this goes on a lot, but I think there's so much more. There's so much more awareness about it and ways to see it that the public is now saying, you know, this is unacceptable. And so we need all the people involved, and we need all the evidence, and we need so that this can be handled properly and not just swept under the carpet or slaps on the wrist. So I think it unfortunately, you know, it takes time, but I think, you know, through much suffering and unfortunate situations.
Well, she didn't die in vain, and neither did Cooney, and neither did all the other animals.
Together, and people are just aware of it, and it's on the news, and there's more training about how to handle these types of things. And
I would like to say that we have a very good relationship. Met with, Sheriff McMahill, met with Assistant Sheriff Dory Corn, sorry, And now we have, like, I can reach out directly to them when there's situations, when people feel like, hey, there's a situation. In fact, the guy that was a security guard, it was on a Ring video. He was chasing the dog. He caught the dog, punched the dog. Everybody freaked out. I was able to get them out there. They found the guy. Awesome. They arrested him. they did take the video down. There's,
I think the more that those things happen, I think the public is just going to be more aware. Are we going to catch every case and stop every person? No, we're not. But the public is more aware that, hey, there's going to be consequences for this, and there's cameras everywhere. Mm-hmm. And, it's.
What was your reaction when you came back into session that Monday morning and you saw that the voice of the people had changed the tide? Mm-hmm. And what would you say to those people?
Well, I said when I did an interview after Reba's law passed that I thank them, the community, because it was truly, there was, like I said, nothing more that I could do. I had no power to do anything more with the bill. And it was through their advocacy and coming out and saying, no, we want Reba's law. We want this bill to move forward. And, we're going to hold those people accountable that stopped it from moving forward. So I give them credit and I thank them for that. And I think that that's what we need to continue to do is, all the rescues, the advocacy groups, just regular citizens, volunteers, everybody just has to continue to be vocal. But
do you think the legislature is going to be more cognizant when there's animal issues up because of the outpouring of support that this bill had in the future?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I think I definitely think that when they came back after that weekend and saw what had happened, that they saw that, oh, wow, this is now, like I said, there were some that were genuinely supportive of the bill and of animal welfare and protection, and that genuinely there are. But then there were those, I think, that saw this is going to be a political suicide for us come election, and saw the writing on the wall there. And so it definitely had a huge impact.
Well, and right now in the world, there's a lot of very important issues, housing affordability, homelessness, crime. There's, you guys are battling. I mean, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that, I've begged people, please register to vote. Mm-hmm. Please reach out to your elected officials. Know who they are. Yeah. What did I just ask you to do this week?
I don't know, something. I wasn't listening.
I said, please.
I was like, I don't have time now.
I know, but but see that as people go, well, I'm just one voice, or no one cares what I think.
This is a great example of
that it does matter. And when all the voices unite and come together, we're like the Union for Animals, right? Like we come together and we fight for their, their living conditions and accountability for crime. And I tell people all the time, please print out. Go online, register to vote, and then print out who your elected officials are and put it on your refrigerator, because people think that you guys are all knowing, and no offense, but just like you said, I got a letter and I went, oh, let me address this. But if someone hadn't written that letter, just like when we find, when like Victoria Seaman found out about stuff, she didn't know. You guys don't always know. It's not until your constituents bring it to your attention, and then you go, oh, I didn't know that. There's so many things, and that's why I tell people is, please let your elected officials know that these issues are important to you, because they may not know what's going on,
right?
And then more importantly, not just to know who your elected officials are, but for your elected officials to know who you are. Go to their coffees on the corner. Go, whenever they have events or whatever, or when they're running for office, go walk and knock on doors for them, support them. People like me are poor. I don't have money to write
they have
campaign.
Events at the park. One time, I got to tell you, this is super funny. So Tracy, one of basically my left arm, right arm, we went down to the park where Tick was speaking, and my dog at the time, I had him on kind of like a bungee leash, and he literally like went around Tick and like wrapped him so he couldn't move. And I was like, now you stuck. So you got to listen to what we have to say. And that's how we started our relationship. That's how Tracy started her relationship with him.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. That's how it happened.
Because you guys, it's important especially like people like that love what you did and support you. What are your plans? Are you running again? Are you running first? What are your?
Yeah, as of today, I am. I'll be running again. It'll be my 5th term, and
your official announcement. Let's make this a big deal.
Sure. Yeah, unless there's just some big major change in my life or something, yeah, I plan to run again.
And do you have any bills that you're thinking about already?
No.
Oh, but hold on. We're not, hold on. Like, hold that thought. Stand by. But I want people to know that if they like you and they supported you, then go out and knock and, because that's the best person to knock on a door and tell your constituents is, hey, you please vote for Melissa. Did you know she's the one that did this and she did that and she helped me with this? And do you know she volunteers at the 100? I mean,
you're right.
If someone knocked on my door and I mean, I would love it for it to be the candidate, but you can't knock on all the thousands of doors. You knock on a lot of them, but that's what's important. Get out there and support. If you can't write a campaign contribution check, go knock on doors.
Put it on your social media or
support.
Have, like you said, go knock doors with them or email, 10 friends or whatever. And that's why I do this is I just want people to know that, yes, I have this title and I'm an elected official, but I'm just a person like everybody else. And I care about the same things other people care about. I have a family. We ran a business. I love animals. I love my grandkids. I care about their futures. I'm just the same. I'm just in a position that I can help people and try to get good things done. But, it takes everybody
and you
working
can't
together,
guess. I mean, if you don't know what's important to people, you don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
That's why it's important for people to reach out to you and say, hey, I care about animal issues. What can we do about this or that?
And a lot of legislators, a lot of their bills they get are from constituents. Somebody had an issue or problem or, hey, what can we do about this? And so, we're not all knowing. And so some like to think they are, but we're not. And, we get ideas for bills from constituents and
all of my, all my bills that I've written were all by my assembly people. Richard Carrillo, he's the one that did the anti-bestiality bill that no one wanted to touch. David Parks, he was involved with Cooney's Law.
So see, there's a lot of legislators that really care about
Benicia
it.
Considine just did the bill, the Sequest bill. I mean, that's the thing is like, I ask, and I don't give these people money. I literally say, I'm one of your constituents. Can you please do this? And they go, okay.
And we always, and we can't always get everything.
Yeah.
We try and we do our best. And like with Reba's Law, I think this was a huge win. It had
huge.
The felony levels went up, the fines went up, the years in prison went up. It applied to police dogs, and
you can break into a car.
I was just going to bring that up. That's something that people have tried for years and years and years. I even had people ask me, "Can we do that this time?" And that was one of the things that came in an amendment that was made on the Senate side. And I was,
but I like the requirements that you put in place. Because I get those calls in January where people want to break windows when it's 50 degrees outside. And I'm like, no. And it's also dangerous because if you break a window of some big guy that comes out and you're stealing his dog out of his car, probably going to get your butt kicked or worse. So, I'm glad you guys put those requirements in place. That I was like, that was brilliant.
Yeah, and just to delineate what those are, you still have to call law enforcement or animal control, let them know where you are, what's going on. You have to determine that it's hot and there is no air.
And the dog's in distress.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can break the window, but you have to stay there with the animal, with the car until law enforcement arrives. But I think that's another huge win. And
huge.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, at the end of the session, we all were just like, this is great.
Was that your only bill you got passed, or were there any others?
No, I had Assembly Bill 309, which was a bill for people, survivors of victims of domestic violence. It would help with the protection order process that they go through. So that was one. I also had a bill that would allow domestic violence survivors to get a free copy of the police report. So just things like that. I think through my career, I've tried to find areas that I focus on that, and it's always been, vulnerable populations, victims, animals, people that get taken advantage of or hurt. And, I just have a real soft spot for those types of people and situations. And so I try to focus. My one bill increased the statute of limitations for a sex trafficking crime from 1 to 4 years to 1 to 6. I mean, things like that, and you might think they're small, but they're big wins. And then my other bill
for the voiceless people.
Yeah, exactly. Like who's more, vulnerable, like victims and children and animals. And so, this was, like I said, I have an animal bill every session, and this was the first one. I mean, a lot of them get through, I think all of them have gotten through the Assembly side, then they get to the Senate side, and then it kind of, I don't know what happens over there, but this was the first one that I got through, and this is a big one. I think this will probably be the bill I'm most proud of. And I will have to say, not that I'm boasting or whatever, but I think this was probably one of the biggest bills that came out of the session. I think it was talked about the most, up there with the governor's, couple of the governor's bills.
News coverage all the time.
Reba's bill.
Yeah.
It was on the news.
What about something with like rent control? I'm not going to throw rent control, breed restrictions.
So I had a bill this time too that didn't get heard. That was, I forget the number of it now, but it actually would have allowed, encouraged landlords, if they allowed people to have animals, pets, and that they could get tax incentives, tax abatements, and that for allowing a pet, not charging excessive pet rent, stuff like that. That didn't get a hearing. Again, people are like, well, we have people that don't have homes. That's more important than animals. And, but how many times
people choose to be homeless of some of these issues, and why even people are moving and why they have to give up their dogs.
Exactly.
Like I actually have one of my volunteers one of my fosters who's moving back to Utah because they just raised, she's coming up on her year lease. They just raised it $500, not $50. Not $25.
That's crazy.
But $500. So she's
crazy.
like, we're out. We're going back to Utah. So then let's just say that she didn't have somewhere to go in Utah. She's in Vegas. She's now trying to find a place to rent that's of the same price that she was paying before, but she can't find anything that's not going to allow her 2 pit bulls.
I know.
So
and working in the shelter and all that, you see a lot of the reasons for surrendering is they had to move and they can't take the dog. I mean, that's heartbreaking.
But there's actually people that choose to be homeless. Our last guest last week that was on,
I saw that.
Ron Rader, but he was
keep
like,
his dogs.
Yes. They was living in a camper behind the bank because there was no one, and he could have gotten easily disability and somewhere to live, but he would not give up his dogs. I mean, some people will just line up or dump them at the park, but
that just contributes to the bigger problem that we talk about the overcrowding in the shelters and dogs being euthanized. It's the illegal breeding. It's not being able to take your dog, if you rent, and it's all of this.
Yeah.
Not even, in talking about abandonment and cruelty. And it's just such a big issue. But I'm grateful that there's more light being shown on all of this and the need to do something about it. Because
I printed off some statistics here.
Animals are not human beings, but they're living beings.
Yeah,
they live, they breathe, they feel, they hurt. They need to be treated with compassion and respect. And there's no reason ever to hurt an animal or a child or a person. There's no reason. That's not excusable.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree you can protect animals and children.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
it's
don't
not
have to
exclusive.
choose.
You don't have to pick one or the other.
Well, when I authored Cooney's Law, I went and got support from the domestic violence folks because I didn't want it to be a them or us thing.
No, and look at the domestic violence people that take their animals.
Yes.
That was a thing to...
Noah's Animal
leave,
House,
but they have to take their dog.
They will not leave if they can't take their pets.
Yeah.
Not even the children want to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tragic, which is why we got support. I don't know if there was a huge RJ article we wrote, and it was someone that was actually at Noah's Animal House when we were profiling Cooney's Law before the session started in 2011. But tell us again real quick about you grooming, the grooming bill.
Okay. So that was my other bill this session was AB 418. And I co-sponsored that with Assemblyman Brian Hivitz. That came directly from a constituent that reached out through someone else that told the story, and then that person who was a lobbyist called me and said, "Would you carry this bill?" And then I talked to the constituent, and their dog, Daisy's Law, that's the name of the bill, was taken. Just a little 5 or 6 pound dog went to the groomer. The groomer they'd been to before. I think they have 3 dogs, and they take him to the groomer. They went back later in the day to pick the dog up. They brought Daisy out, and his wife was like, "What's wrong with her?" She was just lethargic, and her tongue was black and everything. So they rushed it to the vet. She was dehydrated, and unfortunately, she passed away. And they found out that she had been barking, I guess, and they had stuck her in the back room where they keep the dryers and stuff like that. In the summer, there was no air, so they had put probably the little collar that they put them on or whatever, probably too tight, and her esophagus had collapsed. And I mean, it was so sad. And these people were devastated. This little dog, and so they said, we want to do something. And just, we talked about earlier, there's nothing you can do because groomers aren't licensed. And, he talked to the owner of the grooming place, and they said, well, here, we'll give you $1,000 or whatever. And he's like, that's it for the life of my dog. And he contacted his attorney, and they told him the same thing. Look, you can't get anything from him because
no, but they should have been charged and investigated. So and a necropsy on the dog.
I would like a bill that requires groomers to have training. They need to know, if you're going to work for a groomer or handle an animal, you need to have training, how to handle an animal, first aid, signs of distress, all of that. So I said, absolutely, I'll take it on. I knew it was going to be another, here we go, another animal bill. But it just happened to work out that Clark County redid all of their animal ordinances just before our session, and they addressed in that, I think it's 10 was the ordinance number or chapter. They require now all groomers, people that work for groomers that handle animals, to have training.
And the rescues, I think.
Not training on how to handle animals. It's training on how to say something if they see something. Is that right, Gina?
No, I think it's training on, it's like animal handling training.
First aid,
but it's
all that.
Yeah, but
CPR.
It's pretty basic.
But theirs is different because theirs is going to take time to roll out because they're going to do the training through Clark County. So they're going to develop the training in the program. So what we did in our bill was there's a nuance in legislation that sometimes you want a bill or law to be really prescriptive, and then other times you don't want it to be too prescriptive, because then if there's a problem or something, you got to wait 2 years to come back and fix it, or you don't want to make it too onerous on that. Then they can't do it.
Well, there's a big fiscal note.
Right.
If it's,
So what we did was we modeled it after the Clark County ordinance. But this says that every jurisdiction, so every county, city, whatever, has to come up. They have to require the training. Now, it can be that they can do it, say, through City of Henderson, or they can do it through City of Reno. They can do it that way, but they have to have, every groomer has to have this training, and not just the owner, but whoever works there has to have this training. And that goes into effect in October.
Yes. I need to pull that language and talk more about that.
These are other bills that we get them passed, but then it's the implementation. So it's folks like you that need to get that out and make sure that it's getting done and to get that word out that, this is now required. I want to say Clark County tied theirs to their business license, that they'd have to have that to show that the people work there.
And they also, and that was part of Mora's law. That's why I was very emotional when we testified, and people were probably like, why is this big crybaby up there? I worked a long time. I don't know if you know the Mora story.
You told me.
And, when they passed that, especially because they had to report if they, seriously injure or an animal dies in their care, so that because people don't know what to do, they don't know to get a necropsy. Yeah. So there can't be charges because there's no cause of death. You have to have the evidence.
Back to that.
So that, and well, that's because, I get those calls. I hear the people crying and they're distraught, so that we can make sure. That's why we work so hard with Jim Anderson at Clark County APS to get those laws on the books to protect people even from themselves because they don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. Mm-hmm.
And we were actually able, there was one of the dogs that the guy was charged with at Pazaz, that the dog was already dead, was in a freezer, going to be cremated. And we reached in, we called, got APS to go pick up the body, do a necropsy on the dog. And they were also charged with that dog as well. Good. So I'm excited. But what I'm really excited about is, so when I called to invite you on the show, of course, I had to be Gina and say, would you help sponsor? Could we regulate more the pet industry, the pet service industry? Because there's a million horror stories about groomers.
I'm sure.
People don't understand. They're, like you were saying earlier, there's no training, there's no certification, there's no licensure, there's no oversight. So say like cosmetologists, you have to have a license. Yeah. You can, if you get in trouble or you get a complaint, there's a board. There is zero oversight over trainers, board and trains. I could tell you horror stories for hours of all the animals that have died either in boarding, at the board and trains, injured at groomer's office. My best friend, her dog was stabbed. I turned blood red. And they go, oh no, you brought your dog like that because those sharp scissors that they use. She had a dog that needed one of those, and those are all those issues that people don't understand until it happens to them.
Well, yeah, because you think if you take your pet to a groomer, you think, oh, well, these people know what they're doing. And you just think that that's how it is, right? So I think it's good too, is you're protecting like the public, you're protecting and the people that work
and the groomers.
There. Yeah, I wouldn't say, I think I'll go get a job as a groomer. Like, I would hope someone would train me to know how to deal with, like a vet does or something. They're vet techs. They know how to handle big, large breeds and when they're aggressive. And I would want to, if I'm getting a job like that, I would want to be trained so that I feel safe in my job. But again, I think it all goes back to, it's just a larger conversation of all of these topics about animals. And they're just coming to light because people are just the era that we live in. It's so visible now. And gratefully it is. I mean, it's sad to see all these things.
Cameras help.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was a recent one with a groomer, I think on TikTok.
Just
where she was caught. She was caught on camera, like beating multiple dogs in the back, like because she's trying to get them to like calm down. And they actually weren't even really doing anything. One of them was like, "Stop hitting me."
Yeah. I think it was like North Carolina or something.
Yeah.
But
it's just it's being brought to light that no, you can't do this. Like this is not. It's not humane. It's not okay. Like it's never okay to hit anyone or anything. Like it's just not.
Where can people find out more about you, Melissa, if they want to follow you or get involved in your campaigns?
Sure. So I have a website. It's Hardy4Nevada.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I post a lot right now. All my posts are about dog adoptions.
Thank you.
It's my passion. I during the session, I don't even know why I started thinking about or doing it really. I just started like following the Henderson shelter and, just my passion about animals. I think it was my son-in-law actually said, you should post like dog adoptions on your thing. It kind of goes along with your bills that you're doing and stuff. And that's a great idea. So I started looking at the Henderson shelter because I live in Henderson and noticed that they do field trips. So I'm like, that sounds like something I'd like to do. So every weekend when I would come home from session, because we're there Monday through Friday, and then we come home on the weekend, my husband and I would go get a dog and we would take him out for a field trip. We did that for February, March, and April, and May. Then obviously it's too hot now for us to take them. But we did that. And we took out, I think, 8 or 9 dogs. They all got adopted.
Well, you took pictures and shared them on all your social media. Thank you for doing that.
It's just things like that. Like it makes a difference. Like you go get a dog and take them on a field trip and you post about it and you show them in a normal, natural environment in a home. It makes a difference because people say, oh my gosh, look, that dog, it's just a normal dog. And it really helps get them exposure. And, we have a dog that's not dog friendly, so we can't foster dogs or take a dog to our house. So I'm like, what else can we do? So we did the field trip and it's, a couple of hours or whatever. It's, and you feel, I can't tell you, like just sitting there in the park watching the dog run around, you just feel so good because you made a difference in their life. They live in the moment, right?
Yeah.
They go back to the shelter and they're okay because they feel love there and the people love them there.
Well, you guys have a really good
But,
shelter
you
in
know,
Henderson compared to, you know.
And I feel bad for the Animal Foundation. Like I try to share those dogs too because it's not their fault.
Oh, no.
No, it's not. No, we support the dogs.
We support the dogs.
staff,
It's
just
and
not
I
the
not
hope
leadership.
something can happen, you know. But look at the volume they have there. It's just like it's so sad.
Well,
all our other shows about them, so we won't make this one about
Yeah.
them. But
I just dogs in general. I just I'm just really passionate about them.
thank you so much for
But that's
coming
how you can
in.
find
Thank
out about
you.
me. And
Okay.
I encourage people to, like you said, get involved with their legislators and find out what they're passionate about. If you're passionate about animals, ask them what they think about animal policy. Hey, if we had this legislation, would you support that, or why not, or because it does. It makes a difference. You can make a difference in somebody's campaign, just off one issue.
And the community made a difference
Exactly.
with Reba's
Yeah.
Law.
Look
It
at
was
that.
dead,
Yep.
and the community brought it back to life. And
Absolutely.
thank you for sharing some of the behind the scenes
Of course.
information I wasn't aware of. I'm sure our listeners weren't. So
Yeah,
they understand a little bit more of the process.
I have to give credit. There were some really great legislators that I worked with on the bill, and Senator Scheibel, she's a big animal
Yes.
advocate. She passed some other legislation that I always vote for and sponsor, and she was really, really helpful.
do you guys have
She's
an
a
animal
councilman.
caucus at the
No,
legislature?
we don't.
Can we create one?
No.
Because what I would love is
That's
a
a good idea.
bipartisan
That's
animal
great.
caucus that we could get because, and by the way, if you want to help support, I've already asked my Assemblywoman, Venicia Considine, and you to work on, that
Yeah, I
there's
would
some
love
things
to.
I'd like to work on with regulating,
Mhm.
groomers
Mhm.
and all that to protect,
Yep.
both sides.
Yep.
But there's a lot of other stuff. Like people don't know this. And in fact, they testified on this and they were wrong. He goes, well, if I put my dog in a cage and he just never left and could stand up and just turn around. And it's like, that's legal. That's legal here. It's not illegal. And I don't think people know that. It's not illegal to put your dog in a cage. And as long as they can stand up and turn around, you never have to let them out. And it's perfectly legal. So we, let's work on some stuff.
Yeah,
together.
there's a lot of things that can be worked on, and
Well,
an
animal
sometimes-
caucus is a great idea.
Yeah, it's you
How do we do that?
you
Can
take
we-
one brick in the building at a time, to build it and change things, and working in a bipartisan way. That's always, as a Republican and minority, that's how we have to get things done. You've got to have the bipartisan support. So the more work we can do, we've got 18 months or so before the next legislative session to work on things. The more that we can do that together, that we're much further ahead.
I know, but look at Titus and Townsend. Do you remember when they would work together,
Yep.
bipartisan? That's what we need to get back to.
Mhm.
And if anyone else is
Absolutely.
interested, they could reach out to me
Yeah.
or maybe reach out
We
to
should-
you and let's,
should do
work
that.
on some bipartisan animal laws.
Yeah,
Thanks
I
a
I saw
lot.
the signal.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, the plane's about to land.
Time's up.
I don't know. I'm kind of on a time limit, so I have a bucket list. I don't know if you know about my stage 4 cancer,
No.
but yeah.
Oh,
So
well, I'm sorry.
I have a bucket list.
Hopefully we cross one of them off here today.
Is it? Are we done? Or are we still on?
We're still going.
We're still going, but
Yeah.
But
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on. Like, I love talking about this. I'm happy to come back and, because I think like we talked about, Cooney's Law was 12, 13 years ago. Here we are now with Reba's Law and Daisy's Law. And now we've come so much further, but we've got to work with law enforcement, work with all these people to keep it going and make more progress.
And I think the people knowing they have legislators like yourself up there that will support our causes goes a long way. So we really appreciate it, and thank you for coming
anytime.
in. Thank
I
you
love
very
so
much.
much.
amazing
So
of
fun.
our state.
I gotta tell you,
That
thank
would be-
you. That was a huge bill,
welcome.
and I'm
Okay, it's
excited
the
to work
Gina
with
show.
you.
Okay, we're done.